Hello everyone and welcome to episode 16 of the Wanderings podcast. My name is Pedro Bonatto and I am a photographer and a musician, and if you're new to the show, here I like to explore different subjects around art, culture, science, and to bring a little bit of the inspiration from the people that have inspired my own work. We're starting the 2020 season a little bit late, but I'll make it up to you with a very, very special guest. His name is Dan Hecho, and he is not only one of my favorite photographers, but he's also one of the top Ukrainian artists focusing on fine art nudes. Dan started as a painter, and today he's a world-class photographer with a very, very unique and painterly style. Everything from his posing of models, his use of light, his color manipulation, which are second to none, everything helps to create this harmony and beauty. And he has been sharing his knowledge in this signature style in workshops all around the world. I remember when I first got in contact with his work and I purchased one of his courses. That was back when I was in Toronto. And I was thinking his work and his style was so amazing, and I learned so much from those courses, and it was such an honor to sit with him in Kyiv and learn a bit more deeply about his approach to creating art and beauty. Even though this is a conversation between two photographers, I try to keep the technical part to a minimum, and I think you will enjoy this talk about art, inspiration, philosophy, changing careers, and doing art that is deeply personal. If you're not familiar with Dan's work, I highly recommend that you take a moment and go on Instagram, on his website, and take a look at his work so that you have some context while you listen to this episode. You can find his work on Instagram at Dan_Hecho, that is DAN_HECHO, or you can go to danhecho.com and you can see some of his work. It is quite amazing, and without further ado, here is my conversation at the beautiful F11 studios in Kyiv with Dan Hecho. Dan, welcome to the show!
Thanks. We are here.
Yeah, I wish we had, I was telling you like just before we started recording, I wish we had actual cameras, because this place where we're shooting F11 Studios here in Kyiv is so beautiful, and you've just came fresh from a shoot in this room.
After shooting with ballet dancer from Argentina.
Oh wow, ballet dancer from Argentina, and she's in the...
now she's a dancer of a National Opera Theatre of Ukraine,
And I know that you do a lot of shoots with dancers and with models. So can you talk a little bit about? Let's jump right into like your work with dancers. What's your approach? What do you get from it?
My idea first, I'm a very lazy artist, because I think what is can do much more easy than take the beautiful piece of nature like women body, female body, and just take a few shots with nice lighting. And what I thought, that only beautiful female body in beautiful movement looks better than just naked beautiful body.
Right.
That was idea, and yes, I started to shoot dancers because I see a nice, beautiful body in beautiful movement, yes, in actions, and it looks great.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that I noticed in your work a lot, that you, I guess with dancers too, you have a very specific style of how you pose models, that they look so natural and they have literally those ballet hands even, right? So you're very careful about that. So I guess that helps you with posing models as well, right?
Yes, of course. And because my idea for posing is just to show much more elegant position of female body. And of course, that idea for me, the first one. And I'm trying to explain the models, yes, how use hands, yes, how use fingers, of course, how to be relaxing. And for dancers, it looks more natural because it's in movement, in action.
Mm-hmm. And you shoot them like when they are like in the moment, you ask them to like hold a pose, or you catch them in action. How do you usually work?
See, just for the dancers, it's just a problem. I have a very slowly camera. It's a medium format camera. It's I have only one shot for taking picture, and that's I have to catch a moment and just ask a dancer, please do like a small stop in the end of moment. And I catch this moment. That's just technique for shooting dancers.
Right, and that's you mentioned medium format cameras in the like in the audience. We'll have photographers, but we'll have artists from other fields. So just that they know that in photography there are different kinds of cameras, and the medium format ones they have such beautiful quality and they have big sensors.
Yeah, of course, it's a big sensor, big quality. For photographers, we have just like a full frame cameras, yes, some crop, and the medium format cameras. And medium format, of course, it's a top kind of cameras.
Yeah, and so you decided to, even though it's like sort of like sometimes slows down the shooting a little bit, but I guess that's even an advantage, right? Because you're not a photographer that goes click, 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 and then you have 400 photos.
Probably you're right, because it's easy to me to choose better images, and I, as usual, I brought maybe 200-300 pictures, not 2,000-3,000. It's easy to me,
right?
Because when I used more fast cameras, like full frame cameras, Sony, Canon, I brought 2,000 pictures, and I have a lot of time for selection. It's not for me. I'm too lazy for that. Sorry.
Yeah, and so let's get back a little bit to like the beginning of your. I know you as a photographer. Then to me, one of the like the best ones I've seen in fine art.
Thanks.
And but yeah, I really mean it. But I know that you started as a painter, right?
No, I don't start. I finished art painting school. Then I leave my pencils and did different stuff for paintings, and just took a big break between my painting career when I was young and finished it. Maybe I was 20. Finished.
Oh, finished.
Then, yes, I start my photography career when I was 34, I think. Yes.
Oh, okay.
34. It's 14 years break. Just because when I bought my first digital camera, and so that's very easy to take a nice picture and a little bit change it in some editing programs like Lightroom or Photoshop, and you can get something like painting. It's easy. Because I always said that a good photographer is a lazy painter. Don't want to spend a lot of time to creating pictures. Just 1-2 hours for shooting and maybe half an hour for editing, and that's okay.
Photography is a lazy painter. That's awesome. Yeah, and if I may ask, because I didn't know about this, like, so you took this break from art, and what were you doing?
I'm doing a completely different activity in my life, did different kind of business and something, and then I stopped this career just when I bought camera, and I decided to be just a photographer. At first I decided to be a commercial photographer, and then I switched to art.
Right.
Art shooting.
Yeah, that's so interesting because I know, like, with the listeners for the podcast, and I know in my own journey, I actually started with photography, and then I actually went to do like government work, and I did all sorts of things. And then at some point, also when I was about 30 something, I decided, you know what, I will become a photographer. So it's interesting that you got into that bandwagon. And it was, you decided to go into fine art more for the freedom of it, or how was it?
First, my career started from commercial wedding shooting, different wedding shooting, and some family shooting. But after a few years working commercial field of photography, yes, I decided that I have to express my own vision of beauty, and I started looking for harmony in pictures, like in painting, and that was the idea. I think since 2009, 2010, I started to do much more art nude photography, because I told you that female body is the most beautiful shape in the nature, created by the nature. Yes, and just take this best form, best shape, yes, and show this shape and sensuality of women through camera, a little bit change it in some editing programs, and you can get nice paint. That's art, yes. I know, just because I am completely digital photographer. I don't use analog cameras or something else. Maybe I'm too lazy for that. But for me, it's much more interesting because I can add my color vision to my pictures only in digital photography. For example, if you are using some film cameras, analog cameras, yes, after you have to scan your films, yes, and do some editing again in Photoshop or Lightroom, but easier to take pictures for digital cameras for me.
Yeah, and even when you see analog cameras, that a lot of photographers these days, they're like this nostalgic idea of like, oh, analog cameras, but you can't do much stuff with it. You can't control like the white balance. There is not that much depth of information on the, even when you scan it. It's as if you were...
And then scan, yeah. And destroyed all these analog settings.
Yeah, so...
Why?
Yeah, and it's one of those things that, like, to me, I also shoot like only digital, even though I learned in film, and I would never love to get back to that. And one of the things that, like you mentioned, and people should, as they're listening to this, they should go to your page. We're gonna talk, like, give all show notes and links to everything. But you have this beautiful style that is absolutely, as you say, like painterly. It looks like you're transported into this timeless world. It's like, it looks like those paintings or fine art nudes from old masters, but with this new spin and with real people, right?
Yes, you're right. Because first my idea was to create a picture using digital cameras, yes, and editing something else, just to create only one great picture from each shooting, like painting. For example, it's like during shooting you take a lot of different shots. It's like a sketch for one paint. And as a result, you just create only one great picture. And I always inspired by old masters, like Renaissance period. I think it's my favorite master from that period. It's like Da Vinci, Michelangelo, Rembrandt, Tiziano, and I took all these techniques from old masters. I mean, just models posing, and I mean some color palette. Because for me, colors, it's just not real color from our life. It's just I don't know, it's my vision of color palette for my art. It's like I don't know. One time, one guy asked me, why you create only these colors in your pictures, something like blue, orange, some, because my answer was, because this is the colors of my soul. I reflect my soul into my art. Right. That's my idea, and I like these colors. It's reflected. You know, it does matter which techniques and instrument you're using for your art. Digital cameras, analog cameras, something else, or paintings. Just choose your favorite instruments and create your art. Just reflect your soul and your personality in your art. That's my idea, and I try to do it, and I am doing what I like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great answer, and I think that's what separates like great artists from like people that are still trying to find their style. And even today there's a lot of talk in all sorts of art forms to finding your style. But I think the way that you were talking about that is like, I have to do this because this is what comes out of your soul.
Because if you want to find your style, just first you have to understand yourself, your own personality, and reflect it. That's your style.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And one of the things that I noticed, like, as I mentioned, like I got drawn to your work a couple of years ago, and the person that told me about you was actually my wife, because she was scrolling through Instagram. She's a dancer as well, and then she goes, oh, look at this photographer's art, and she was like so mesmerized by it. And do you have in your audience, like, because you have like quite a following on Instagram and other platforms, I assume this appreciation for the female body as an object of beauty in nature, you have probably a lot of followers that are actually female, right? That appreciate this art form.
Each month, more and more women follow my page.
Oh, well, yeah. I assumed, because like every person that I know that likes your work, and it happened from different places.
I never shoot erotic. I shoot only art. It's a completely different style. Yeah. Because art, it's just a reflection of beauty, of surrounding beauty and female body. And erotic is just a reflection of some instincts.
Right.
That's the difference.
Yeah, and you can totally see that in your photographs, that they're about this beauty that holds you, right? And I totally see that. And that's one of the things that I was curious about. So then you not only create these beautiful works, and I believe you create also like fine art prints that people can get. Yes. How is that process for you? Is this a new thing, or you've done this a lot, or how does it work?
It's not my main activity, but sometimes I'm selling my prints. I have some page, with special offers for prints, and sometimes I'm selling. And all prints I'm doing on canvas.
Oh, okay.
On canvas, because they looks like a painting, and then use some post service for sending them to different countries. It's easy. You can just check my webpage. I think it's on danhecho.pro, and you can find this.
We'll have links to
prints, yes, and you can find them.
How do you find like seeing your work? Because that's one of the things as a digital photographer that at least to me, whenever I get my work in print, it's such a nice feeling to see that in the real world, quote unquote.
If you are in Kiev, you can visit Light Photo Studio, and you can see my exhibition of prints of ballet dancers' prints.
That's great.
It's opened.
Oh,
just
cool.
visit on the first floor of the studio in the corridor. You will see all my pictures.
I'll make
printed
sure.
On canvas with ballet dancers.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know that you do a lot of workshops, not only online and live. You travel a lot teaching workshops. How did you get into it, and your approach to teaching? Like, I'm very curious on that. How you approach your teaching?
I start my teaching career, I think, since 2011. At first, it was I did a lot of classes, wedding classes in my area, Ukraine, Russia, and another Russian-speaking countries, because I was a famous wedding photographer at first. Yes, really.
Oh, wow,
it was in my career, yes, and I did a lot of wedding classes, but my classes separated on two parts: 2 days of wedding shooting and 1 day of art nude shooting. Yes, and then after I start to do different classes and workshops all around the world. I think since 2015, Europe, United States, and Asia, Brazil, Latin America, different countries, because people invite me to learn my technique of shooting, of post-processing, how I work with model, but for whole world, much more interesting to visit my art nude classes, not wedding. And I stopped because in 2015 I stopped completely my wedding photography career, because I decided I want to do only what I like, because I start to bore it from wedding shooting, because it's a work for your client, for your customer. That's not bad, but if you want to realize completely your ideas and your vision of beauty, better to create your own art, and better to earn money from your art than not from your customers.
Right.
Yes. If you get some money only from customers, okay. Customers, your boss. If you earn money from your art, you are your boss.
Right. Yeah, no, that's true. And you have all these workshops, and then I know that you started doing online training as well. That's where I got a couple of years ago.
Yes, I think 2 years ago. Yes, it's about 2 years ago. I started first to do some online classes, and now I'm doing it more, because I think I have two reasons to provide some online classes because photographers from whole world can't go to my classes, for example, in Kiev or Europe. I have some followers, in South Africa, in Australia, in Tokyo, yes, in Singapore, and much easier to attend online class than live class. And second reason, I don't want to spend all my time in traveling.
Right.
Yes. And I think one more reason, because teaching process much easier to do online. Teaching process and learning process, because you see all these different secrets and details much better on recorded video, not in live workshop, because at live workshop you see just from side and what I'm doing, I don't know. And you see it recorded one time and the second time and more times, then you see all details of and you see some pictures from my camera. It's easy to learn something for me.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things that I noticed, because I remember I purchased one of your courses, I think 2 years ago, and you were showing not only you were showing your process of actually shooting and your editing process. And one of the things that I realized that was very cool is that if you have those workshops that have a lot of people around, it's not the same dynamics that you have with the models when it's just you and your assistant and the model and makeup artist, right?
Of course, that's a reason.
And the one thing I wanted to ask you, I don't know what it is, but there are so many great photographers that come, especially in fine art and especially in nude fine art, that come from Ukraine and Russia. And even when you compare them, and I mean that I'm a Brazilian guy, lived in Toronto for a while, of course, the models here are like really beautiful. There is like this Slavic look that you can't compare with any place around the world, although there are beautiful women everywhere. But the one thing that I noticed is like so many good photographers with good eye. And I know that there are always these workshops and things going on. Do you know why? Is it something in the water here? What's going on?
That's answered because in Russia, Ukraine, we have a lot of beautiful models, and all models want to take some girls, not only models, just girls who want to get nice pictures, nice images, and we have photographers who have this great nature for shooting.
Right.
Yes, of course. And for example, I've been in different countries, but only in our countries I saw so many beautiful girls, so many. Because, for example, yes, you can find beautiful girls in the United States, in the Brazil as well, in Europe, but maybe 5-7% if you compare with our countries.
Yeah.
But just check, in 10 times you have much more beautiful girls for shooting. And because we have many girls, many photographers, and it's just mathematics, mathematics result. If you have many girls, many natures, many photographers, and of course maybe 1% of those photographers are great.
Right. Yeah.
I think probably in Canada you have 3% great photographers, but if you compare the whole number of photographers and girls in our country, it's just nothing.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think there's also this thing here that people have a nice training sometimes like in art and one of the things that I noticed too since coming here is that there's so many, like this place that we're here, the F11 Studios, there's so many great studios where you can create art.
Yes.
In Canada, for example, in Toronto, which is a huge city, has movie productions and all those things. We have no studios that compare. It's basically a white background and you bring your own lights, or sometimes they have lights, but here they have pro photo equipment. And I think that nurtures people to actually go and experiment and...
I think the same answer. Many photographers, many studios, many studios and different studios, and it's a big, just competition between a studio, how to create better location for photographers, yes, and earn some money. It's a big market, big business in our countries, and I know, for example, I've been one of my first classes in Europe was in Milan in 2014, and this workshop was in one of the biggest studio in Milan, Cross Studio, but this Cross Studio, it's a part of big Cross Studio in Moscow.
Oh, wow.
And those guys just arranged this big studio in Milan.
Oh, wow.
From Moscow.
That's amazing. Yeah, and about that, like not only like we talked a little bit about the style of shooting and all the workshops that you're doing. Do you have? And I know that sometimes you did this beautiful set of photographs in a workshop that I think was in Cyprus, which I actually photographed there as well, and it's a beautiful place. But you're able to create these images that I saw. It's like, oh wow, that's a Dan Hecho way of seeing this. Do you prefer to shoot indoor, outdoor? Do you have a preference for that?
I think it depends on situation. If you have a nice location outdoor, why not? I like to shoot it. For example, in our countries in winter time or autumn time, it's very difficult to shoot outdoor. And of course, I prefer to shoot indoor and at home in studios. Yes, and because for me, I don't need too much stuff because I prefer daylighting. But of course, for example, for today shooting, I use some artificial lights, but I prefer constant light in studio, not flashlights, because now it's too dark for daylight shooting. But much easier to shoot indoor, but much more interesting outdoor. Because if you have some nice location, like beautiful parts of nature, some rocks, beautiful sea view, probably some nice trees. Much more interesting to create something new in different location outdoor, because for me mix of beautiful female body and beautiful nature around, it's like a killing mix, killing beauty. It's really. But yes, of course, indoor is easy because easy to play with model, easy to work with the light, but interesting outdoor. Yes, if you have some location.
Yeah, only Dan Hecho will say that it's easy to work with the light because your style is very, very cool and interesting. You're always lighting your models like perfectly. So you say you prefer like natural light then?
Yes, I prefer natural daylighting. It's because I'm lazy photographer. I don't like too much stuff, some assistants, and I never used reflectors for my shooting, and for outdoor as well. I don't need it. I prefer to use only natural reflections, and because I prefer natural light and scan, because it's much more close to real life, to realistic, and I prefer all natural lighting, natural feelings, natural models,
right,
and natural beauty.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then you learned how to, because not all light during daylight. I mentioned this because, as I mentioned, you'll have people that are in the creative field, and even if they think it doesn't apply to them, I think it applies to everyone, because when you're able to learn how to see light, you start seeing different things, and that can spawn all sorts of ideas. But the light is not the same. At noon, the light will be one characteristic,
yes,
and then
course.
the light, and so you choose the specific times of the day that you can create the images that you like, right?
What I have to say, for me, it doesn't matter. Because just I can use any kind of lighting. Strong light, soft light, and okay, if you have soft light, I use soft lighting. Of course, sunset much more beautiful, or sunrise, yes, as this
golden
1 hour, yes, golden, half an hour, I think, yes. It's but for me, it doesn't matter. I took a lot of shootings in strong lighting. Because I have good experience and good practice after wedding shooting, how to do it. And for me, I don't afraid strong sun. I know how to apply it. If I need some shadow, I can find it. If I don't need, I can use this strong lighting. Just different schemes, because you have to know, just if you have only one source of lighting, doesn't matter which one, sun or some softbox in studio or window, or maybe just open door with some lighting. Sometimes it's enough. You have to just to remember three main way how to create three different schemes of lighting with one source. That's enough. If you have strong light, okay, use strong light. For example, I remember I did one big project in Greece. It was 4 years ago with my partner from Greece, and we spent only 1 month on project, and we got 18 shooting days with 12 models, and I think more than half of those shooting days were on strong light, on sunlight in daytime. That's okay. Just to have to know how to apply this kind of light.
Yeah, that's great, and that's has to do also with what you're talking about, like the way you feel when you're trying to get the one shot in that location. So then you can adapt, like I assume, the posing, and so that you can adapt to the kind of lighting environment that's there, right?
It's a lot of different details you have to know about it, and remember all those details, how to make nice position of models, how to play with fingers, with face, with lighting, and to try to which kind of lens do you need for this location. It's just technical issues,
right?
Technical issues.
Yeah, and that takes me to like another thing that I actually don't know about your process. Do you usually come up with okay, I want to work with this model and I have a concept, and then I go to that location and try to do it, or do you let the environment sort of dictate what you can or want to create, or how is your process for creating?
Never. Never. I explain, because for me each shooting is like a creative process for me, because that's what I like, to create something new every time, and I never keep some special positions or some setups in my mind. Just I got some agreement with model and we go to location, and then I look at location, look at model, look at lighting, and start to create something using this main scenes: lighting, model, and location, and apply them together. Okay, then try, change, and finally get some nice picture.
Oh wow, that's so cool. It's very, very. I didn't know about that. That's great. Yeah.
For me, it's much more interesting, because creative process is much more interesting.
Yeah, and very intuitive too, right?
Yes.
And then, how do you know when you got the shot that you want? Like you can sort of like feel like, okay, I got it. This is what we're going for. We got the shot. We're done. Let's move on.
If I saw some harmony at my pictures, that's how I got some shot. But as usual, I need around 2 hours for shooting. It's okay. For me, it's enough. No more. 2 hours, it's okay. But 1 hour, I think it's not enough. But maybe hour and a half and 2 hours, it's okay. And then after 2 hours, we always became tired.
Especially
all models. Yes, tired, because of muscles tired, legs, backs,
right. And that's like one of the last things I wanted to ask you in terms of your process. So how is your process for choosing models? I assume sometimes they come to you and you decide to work with them, but I know that you see them as an element of your art to inspire you. So how do you choose your models? How do you work with them? Can you talk a little bit about that?
My preference is very simple. I just want to see some kind of drawing using body. What I mean, I prefer a little bit more slim body, because I want to see some bones, because bones create some structure, and which work with lighting and create some nice shape and lines. Because for that reason, I don't like too much curvy models, but sometimes I can work with this type of girls as well, but I prefer more slim. Just for me, the most beautiful part of female body is collarbones, ribs, and fingers.
Interesting. All those things that have those delicate shadows and movements, and you can play around with light. That's cool. And have you ever, and I mentioned it because I primarily also shoot mainly female models, but I had some very cool experiences when I was photographing men. And then it's such a different energy that there is the interaction, and it can be. Did you have any experience going outside of that, or you're like, this is what I like, or how do you deal with men or other kinds of subjects?
My nature is completely different from female body, because female body much more beautiful, more elegant. Yes. So for me, I'm not inspired by men. That's a problem. Yeah. That's a problem. I don't listen. I have probably a few experience, but just if I create some just like a story between man and girl, yes, and I think that's all. Maybe some specific shootings for my friends who ask me about some pictures for promotion, some specific gym studios, with good man body. Yeah, that's all. It's not inspired me. I need some inspiration, and of course, female body for me that's inspiration.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's interesting. And then one final thing, I was just thinking about it. So you actually started doing wedding photography and all that craziness. I shot only 3 weddings, one for a friend, one paid, and another not for another friend. And then I said I will never do this again because I think there is a lot of, you have to be reportage, you have to be a psychologist because there's the crazy mother-in-law that is all those things. But did you, from that experience of shooting weddings, because you were put in all these different situations, I assume you learned a lot from that time?
Wedding shooting, it's a great school for photographers, because you have to know everything. Yes, everything. We work with lighting, with models, psychologists, yes, and it was a great school, but I think we have to finish school, grow up, and go forward.
Right.
Yes.
That's cool. And one final thing is, I know we actually should have started with this, but you are Ukrainian, so were you born here in Kiev or?
Yes, I'm Ukrainian. I was born in a small city, Sumy. Not in Kiev, but I'm living in Kiev now. So last maybe 12 years.
Oh, okay. You've been here for a while. Okay, cool. And then what's next for you, in terms of projects or aspirations? Because usually whenever I interview people that are at a certain level of mastery and a certain level in their careers, we always think if you are, especially for people that will be listening, it's I'd love to learn how to do this and all that. And it seems like this insurmountable mountain, right? And then you see some people that are there and it's this peak, it's possible. But there is always something else that we are trying to achieve or trying to get better at, or something that is, I don't know, sometimes holding us back, or it's the next step. So would you mind sharing what's the next thing that you were thinking about doing?
What I have to say, I don't have some special plans, yes, in my art, but I'm trying to follow feelings of my soul, what I like. If I like to create art, okay. If I start to shoot some dancers, okay, I like it. If I like to share my experience to another people, I like it. And now I just try to continue my art shooting, probably to create more different products, like some special, maybe books. I think because I want to sell some special books for nude shooting, for ballet shooting, maybe to, of course, for sale. That's and a good business, I think, and not only business. It's sharing my vision of beauty. That's what I mean, and I'm trying to keep this direction. Yes, and yes, follow. Feeling of my soul. Yes.
Yeah, that seems to be
that's what I mean.
Theme of your work, and I want to thank you for sharing that with us. So one last thing is, again, I know that you have a lot of workshops going on. You have your fine art prints, and you have workshops that are online and outside, and you have the most beautiful portfolio that people should go look in Instagram. So where people should go and find you online? What's the best place to go? We'll have links on show notes and everything, but where do you want to point people to go see your stuff?
For me, it's easy to communicate online. Then follow my Instagram. I have a lot of pictures in 500 pixels.
Okay, cool. On that platform.
Yes, 500 pixels. Yeah. If you want to ask me something, okay, you can use my Facebook.
Besides photography, do you have other hobbies or interests or things that not only you get inspiration from, but sometimes do you have any specific hobbies or interests or things that are outside of photography, or your mind is set on this?
Of course, photography is my life, but just hobby, I think last time I have some, just some philosophical activity sometimes. Yes, I'm sharing my ideas, just first for Russian speaking, probably next for English speaking audience. It's just very interesting to me just to know it's a structure of our universe and how it works.
Oh, cool.
Yes, I learn a lot. I have a lot of experience in it, and I start to share my thoughts and my experience on some channels as well.
Okay, and that's for now more Russian-speaking audience. Do you want to point people to
for Russian-speaking? Probably I switch to English-speaking later.
Yeah, you should totally do that. I would love to hear what you have to say. Photography is a sort of philosophy, right?
Because for me it's looking for a harmony, because our universe are in harmony, and we trying to find this harmony everywhere.
Cool. I'm looking forward to seeing that in the English language, and since I'm learning Russian, I will use that as a good excuse to see the thoughts of Dan Hecho. So with that, my friend, спасибо большое, дякую, and
you're welcome.
Thank you so much, and really appreciate it.
Thanks.
So that's it for today's show. Thank you for listening to the Wanderings podcast. You can find show notes and links at pedrobonatto.com/podcast. If you like the show, I would love if you could share it with your friends or leave a review on iTunes. If you want to get in touch with me, you can find me on all social media at Pedro Bonatto. I would love to hear from you. You can find my photography work at pedrobonatto.com. The music for the Wanderings podcast is provided by the Blue Dot Ensemble, a music and dance group exploring traditions from all over the planet, where I am one of the founders and the lead drummer. You can find us at bluedotensemble.com. So tune in next week for another show. Until then, I urge you to keep following your curiosity, and I'm looking forward to our next Wanderings together.